this stand-up country song about my home in Wisconsin, where the winters are so long. But my boyhood in Kentucky always has me going down the street. I live on a street called Ohio now, so I know that it was meant to be. Catfish River flows from the fourth lake to the third, like Mendota rolls Yahara to Winona, sings the bird who has the south, the north, and the west. It's where the sun goes down. You belong on the east side of this town. I can fish all day with my friends off a Bible camp. I can walk up and down Monroe. But the cottonwoods at Old Brick, they got a whisper I know. Back to the east side you go. Apartments get expensive, old buildings catch on fire. Another car ran the light at Atwood Dunning Street. Your landlord is a liar. You can swim out in the river right by where you went to school. Sometimes life is just downright cool. I can fish all day with my friends off a Bible camp. Like to walk up and down Monroe. But the cottonwoods at Old Brick, they got a whisper I know. Singing back to the east side you go. What happened to my free time? The bookstore, the working class. Sometimes it seems all the news disappeared through some looking glass. You can't code your way to heaven, but you can find your way back down to your own place, like on the east side of this town. I can fish all day with my friends off a Bible camp. Like to walk up and down Monroe. But the cottonwoods at Old Brick, they got a whisper I know. Singing back to the east side you go. Back to the east side you go.
I've got here with me Ritt Deitz and Wilder Deitz, father-son combo. Recent record released, Horses in Smoke, and you both played on that record with some of your colleagues. So I'm curious to know how long you've been making music together. And this is a question that is for either of you. I'm sure you have two different versions of it.
We probably do have two. What do you think, Wilder? How would you answer that question?
Well, I always had instruments in my hand from a very young age, and that was always because of Dad. So in that sense, we've been playing music together since forever for me. But I think I went on my first tour with you when I was 12.
That's right.
So I'd say that's a milestone. That's a checkpoint.
In what capacity were you touring as a 12-year-old?
I was playing piano and percussion.
Excellent.
And I don't know if I was singing yet at that point, singing any backup, but definitely playing piano, definitely playing some drums, just to back him up.
Very cool.
We played a show in North Side, which is a neighborhood in Cincinnati, Ohio. It's kind of an old kind of down in the mouth kind of neighborhood that suddenly got really hip. And there's this nightclub place that we played that had all kinds of interesting Ohio Valley characters in it. And one older lady who is a friend of my stepfather. So she's since passed away, but she used to bring us. She loved singer-songwriters. She used to bring us like demo records when I was about 10 or so. She would bring us these records that said, do not for sale, like these things I'd never seen before and names I'd never heard of and would never hear of again, who were like these guys trying to make a living in Nashville, put it on the record player, So she was older and she was in a wheelchair, and she came to the show, and she came up and said, well, so good, and we had just made a record called After the Mountains, and with the lineup that I play with now pretty much, and she came up and said it was really good, and it was a really good show, and then she looked over at young Wilder and said, and you have a tremendous sideman.
Already.
He was a tremendous sideman. He could hit all those chords from almost the very beginning. That tour, you didn't hit a wrong note. He wasn't as good as he is now, obviously, on the keyboard, but
that's impressive.
He just had an uncanny sense of just like chording and even the black keys.
Wow. Not just white keys.
That's how I'd put it.
Yeah.
All those chords.
Well, that is kind of a line to draw with people who sit down at the piano.
Right.
Those who use black
regular
keys
people.
And those who do not.
That's right.
So, do you play piano as well at all, or
that was my first instrument, but I don't play anywhere near the level Wilder does. Or
just had one in the house, and he.
Well, I started teaching him when he was about 8, I think, and I just showed him chords and said, my feeling is that all songs are built out of chords. It's a real, very limited way of seeing the world of music, but it kind of is the way that I think of music. And so I feel like if you can get a kid to learn some chords and get that pleasure of hitting some chords really early, so that they, especially on a piano, because it doesn't hurt, you don't have to get your ends of your fingers, numb and ready to pushing against stuff.
I'll try teaching it on a cello.
I don't know how you build up to that, but I do know that it didn't take him very long at all to start feeling like he could. I'll let you talk for yourself, Wilder, but I think it was like hitting chords and playing chords, and then you make songs out of those chords, and then the rest of it starts to come.
They're like musical Legos.
That's pretty good.
It is. Build it. You can do this one, put it here for this song, put it here for that song.
Totally.
Got your go-tos.
That's like a teaching metaphor you can use with children. I don't know.
Totally. Yeah. No, I Legos have been scattered about my teaching metaphors for years.
That's cool.
So, it's great to hear you both play together. The chemistry is so natural. Wilder, about the kinds of things you're doing now in Madison.
Sure.
You got it going in school music in middle school, is that right? Or I think I was reading somewhere on your bio or Facebook page or something, things kind of started to snowball around that time, and now you're running ensembles and stuff. So
actually, I didn't do much growing up in terms of curricular music. I was in the band in middle school, played tuba.
Oh, nice.
And nothing in high school, except for outside of school, I'd be playing a lot, heading bands and playing rock and roll. And then in college, I found my way to Professor Richard Davis's Black Music Ensemble, which is really a turn on for me. It was a moment where I just realized this is what curricular music can be like, and it can be welcoming to someone with my particular set of skills. At that point, I didn't read at all. And did everything by ear, and it was very chord-based, very oral tradition in how I played. And that was the perfect entry point for me into some of these other skills, like learning to read or playing jazz music and so on and so forth. So I kind of feel like I took off in my learning at that point through Professor Davis. Mm-hmm. And after a few semesters, I think after 1.5 semesters-ish, of doing his Black Music Ensemble, I with his permission, started a version of that ensemble at East High School here in Madison, which is where I went to school, sort of for that kid who I was when I was there, who, I thought could benefit from having that kind of structured ensemble outside of school. And so I run that there now. I have a group at La Follette that does the same work. That's run by one of my, two of my alumni from the East program. I have another alumna from my East program working with me at East now. And so that's been a really good experience. It's been for me, it's just an excuse to keep learning myself.
It's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I think the idea of roots often feels a little abstract, like something that happened a long time ago, and we're channeling that, now. But what you described is a roots story, really, of your mentor and the kind of relationship it sparked a creative journey for you. And now there are new blossoms coming out of that, new students, and they're coming up and taking leadership roles. So that's really, that's roots.
Well, that's what I'm reading this book right now. In the book, at some point, the author refers to John Coltrane as a lamp who lit other lamps.
Oh, wow.
And
That's powerful.
I think that's a great descriptor for Richard Davis as well. Maybe even more so, at least as far as my experience goes, just because he's dedicated so much of his life to actively sharing, what he knows and his passion. And his criterion for his students, once he selects you as a student, is you need to do this for other people. That's my one criterion. I'll help you as much as I can. I'll do all this stuff for you. And often the student doesn't end up paying a dime to him. I've never directly paid Richard anything except my goodwill and gratitude.
Pay it forward.
And now I'm paying it forward as best I can.
So how long have you, as a family, been here in Madison? Was Wilder born in Madison?
Yeah.
Okay. So you've been here for
A long time. I
decades.
moved here right before I turned 22. I moved to Madison. I'm from Kentucky, and
Right.
I moved
Florence,
here.
is that right?
Cohort, frontman guy, and I say that because we would sort of split off between electric bass and electric guitar, back and forth. I played an acoustic guitar, but through an amp with lots of distortion on it. But it was an acoustic guitar, and then he played a Stratocaster, and then I'd play the bass when he was playing the Strat, and he played the bass when I was playing the guitar, Fender, and then a drummer. And then Craig left. Craig Totten was his name. He left for Seattle, and after a couple years, and then Cliff Hobson was the drummer. He stuck around. He played with Honor Among Thieves for a little while, who were a really good blues band in Madison that still sometimes play in various formats. And their longtime percussionist is the guy that runs the Dane County government now, Joe Parisi, actually. So all these old people, you have all these pasts, but the Dane County executive, I guess is his role. I say those names and I give those details because this is a scene, like a scene. I've never been interested in scenes. I tend to even avoid scenes because scene. It's like there are all these rules to be hip and you have to know all this stuff. And I've always never, when I was like in the prime of my 20s, I was totally uninterested in having to jump through hoops to prove to other people my own age, especially that I was worthy of being whatever, wearing this black outfit and playing this music or something. So that's kind of a difficult thing when you're trying to play rock and roll. And we decided we had a chance to make a record and start touring, and we were playing with a lot of different bands that were on tour, and a number of these bars in Madison that had live music have all burned down, like Club de Wash and O'Kay's Corral and Turner Hall and all these places, most of which have had fires happen to them at some point. But I made a decision not to go out on that path pretty early on, and to have it as a kind of a side thing, for lack of a better word. And so I teach French for a living at the university. I've done that for a long time. Language, and language and music are similar to some extent to each other. And I think I fell into learning French really fast, I think because I'm a musician, and it's a system of sounds, and I had to figure out the grammar and all the culture and all that stuff after the fact, but the learning how to communicate with others part came really fast in the audio, the kind of oral part of language. And I come from a super storytelling, languagey kind of family with roots in the mountains mostly, and so there's a style in my family that's very highly verbal. Those who know me will not be surprised when they hear that. But you know, so I met my wife here. She's from here,
Okay.
and in fact, she's from a family that's much more upper Midwestern, well, English and Norwegian. But when she first started frequent my people, you know, she said to me, you know, they all loved each other, but she said, it's funny, I come from one of those families where you talk and then you take a break so the other person can talk. I was like, that's really interesting. It was like reading National Geographic in 1950, like this odd tribe of people who don't constantly all talk at the same time until you hear something that's interesting for you, enough for you to be quiet and you listen to it. I mean, Wilder has this whole life that he does. He plays music for a living. He does all these different things, and I feel like he comes in and does this with us, you know, and it feels like a great treat to me, having raised him and seen him as a kid and everything. But you know, he can play. He's so dependable as a musician that he doesn't have to work. He's doing his work all the time. He just brings it in. And you know, older guys, I'll write a song and I'll start saying, "Oh, I've got this new song," and Wilder will look at me and go, "I know how it goes."
Well, I felt like I kind of had to step away from your music for a little while and kind of, maybe not. I think I was still playing with you off and on throughout, but getting a little bit more of an education was important for me, and being able to play more with you, because you just learn with that kind of music education how, you know, when you're in a working music environment, the things you say to each other are not personal. Things that I would take personally before. I don't want that chord. I would take personally. Yeah, I don't like that melody or that rhythm. And now that I get to be around a lot more people who play professionally and have my relationship with them be first and foremost as musician to musician, and then friends after that, I realize that style of communication is just, I understand it so much better. And having more tools to be able to accommodate those requests from you as a band leader, I feel like that was really helpful for me, and I continue to, you know, try to find more knowledge. I feel like I'm about 1% of the way towards where I want to be in terms of musical knowledge, because it's just, the more I learn, the more I realize I want to learn.
Well, I really appreciate both of you giving so much time for this conversation, and I'm just going to plug the concert. They're going to play the Deitz Duo here. Ritt and Wilder Deitz are going to play for us at Grace Presents on February 23rd, 12 o'clock. It's a free concert in the nave of the sanctuary, right up on the square, Grace Episcopal. And we're really excited for that to be our first concert of 2019. It should be a good start to a fun year. So thank you both for coming in today. And
Thank you for having us.
see you at the show.
You're welcome.